Welcome to Pistons Talk Podcast. In today's episode, we're recapping day two NBA free agency for the Detroit Pistons. So let's get straight into it, you guys. Let's talk about Dennis Schroeder. We talked about him last night. There were reports that he did sign with the Sacramento Kings. We just didn't know what the dollar amount and the years were with Dennis Schroeder. There was a little bit of a holdup because there were chatters and rumblings that the Sacramento Kings and the Detroit Pistons were in talks with a sign-in trade, and one of the names that kept popping up on the timeline last night was Malik Monk. And those talks died down very quickly. But just to kind of show you guys, there were multiple reporters. Jake Fisher had reported that last night there was an emerging option for the Pistons. Sources say Detroit is trading for a Kings guard. Malik Monk sounds like there's a chance this deal is agreed to. Could turn into a sign-in trade that brings Dennis to Sacramento. Brett Siegel, really well-respected reporter over at Clutch Points, kind of said the same thing. So that was the conversation last night, you guys. Like, the Pistons and the Kings were kind of discussing, could there be a sign and trade situation for Dennis Schroeder going to Sacramento and Malik Monk getting routed to Detroit? And a lot of Pistons fans, myself included, I was like, okay, I could kind of get behind a Malik Monk in the backcourt if we are going to lose Malik Beasley and possibly Tim Hardaway Jr., which we did today. We'll kind of talk about Tim later in the podcast. But I was okay with the Malik Monk for Dennis Schroeder sign and trade. I'm sure a lot of you guys maybe not. I don't really know. I feel like some of you guys are kind of split down the middle. I like Malik Monk as a player. I thought he'd be fine off the bench. Kind of struggled last season with the Sacramento Kings, but maybe that was just because, acquiring Zach LaVine, DeMar DeRozan, kind of felt like he was the odd man out over there. But as a Piston fan, I would have loved that trade. I don't know about you guys, but it didn't happen. We did get a dollar amount. Shams Charania did report today that Dennis Schroeder is going to be signing a 3-year, $45 million deal with the Sacramento Kings, sources tell ESPN. And then we also get a tweet from a cap space guy over at Hoops Hype, Yassi Goslin. I probably butchered that. I apologize. But he said, translation, the Kings may have saved enough money in this trade so they don't have to trade Monk to fit into Dennis Schroeder. So the Kings earlier made a trade with the Denver Nuggets. They were sending Jonas Valanciunas in exchange for Dario Saric to kind of help them sign Dennis Schroeder. So they used their mid-level to sign Dennis Schroeder, and they didn't have to reroute Malik Monk in the process. So they get to keep Malik Monk and sign Dennis Schroeder as their starting point guard. I did not stutter starting point guard. We talked about that on the podcast on Sunday with Eric. There were reports, from Mark Stein that his market was going to be the mid-level exception, and the Kings were really looking at Dennis Schroeder to be their starting point guard. There was also reports that they're looking at Russell Westbrook as well. I don't really know what the Kings are doing. I think they'll be competitive. Are they a top-seeded team in the West? Probably not. But I just want to say thank you, Dennis, for the memories. Hit some really big clutch shots for the Pistons in the playoffs. Once you got here, it felt like you fit like a glove, and just the cap space situation for the Pistons wasn't the best. You had $17 million in available cap space, and I don't really think the Pistons were in a situation where they wanted to pay Dennis, $14-15 million a year to be their backup point guard. So, thank you, Dennis. Wish you well in Sacramento. Maybe you'll be available in a few years. Who knows if you're still playing basketball? But that was the Malik Monk kind of saga for like 12 hours, and that is going to Sacramento. I want to shift over to Tim Hardaway Jr., you guys. I just want to take a quick sip of water, and then we'll get into Tim Hardaway and him going to the Denver Nuggets. Give me 2 seconds. Okay. So the Tim Hardaway Jr. went to Denver. Shams reported it. Let me put the tweet on the screen if you guys are watching live on YouTube. So he had reported that free agent sharpshooter Tim Hardaway Jr. has agreed to a 1-year deal with the Denver Nuggets, sources tell ESPN. Hardaway had a strong season with the Pistons, resurgence in the 24-25 campaign, and now Denver officializes a deal with Mark Barlstein of Priority Sports. So THJ is going to the Denver Nuggets. Man, like, just like THJ aside, Denver is having a hell of an offseason. Like trading for Cam Johnson, getting THJ, Bruce Brown is coming back on a minimum, new head coach. Man, Denver is killing this offseason. I know this is a Pistons podcast, but like I'd be lying to you guys if I was not impressed with the offseason that the Denver Nuggets are having. I think they're winning free agency so far, and we're only 2 days in. Really liked what they did of kind of rerouting, Michael Porter Jr. and getting Cam Johnson. Really love that move by them. But THA to the Nuggets. Now I thought, if we're losing Malik Beasley, you signed Karis LeVert. We'll talk about Duncan Robinson next. I didn't really know if that was going to happen. I was like, maybe you try to roll it back or run it back with THJ, but he signs a 1-year deal. I don't know if it was a veteran minimum. I haven't seen the type of money that was out there with THJ, but I mean, if he signed in a 1-year vet minimum to play with the Denver Nuggets, I get it. You're playing with one of the best teams in the Western Conference. You're playing with one of the best players in the world, in Nikola Jokic. They have some really good pieces. Jamal Murray, Aaron Gordon. Like, if you're going to sign a 1-year vet minimum to go play in the Western Conference with Nikola Jokic, I can't really say I'm mad at it. Just like Dennis Schroeder, THJ, he brought us Pistons fans some memories, good and bad. It's just a Tim Hardaway Jr. experience. Like, when he's hot, it's fun, it's electric. But when he's not hitting shots, it's like, what does he even do? But I'm wishing him well. Really liked his time here, even though it was one season with the Detroit Pistons. And I'll be watching some Denver Nuggets games this year. Like, when the Pistons aren't on, they're my league pass team. Like, I love watching the Denver Nuggets play because Jokic is just a very fun basketball player to watch. Now, we have one more topic and one more player that we're going to be discussing, and it's Duncan Robinson. So there was a trade earlier between the Detroit Pistons and the Miami Heat. So we're going to be reading a couple of tweets here and kind of talking about the trade. And there's also some contract details, which I even like this trade even more. Trades in the front office, definitely we're cooking here. So Shams Charania reported that Detroit was trading Simone Fontecchio to the Miami Heat to acquire Duncan Robinson in a sign-in trade, sources told ESPN. And then he goes on to say free agent shooter Duncan Robinson has agreed to a 3-year, $48 million deal with the Pistons, tell ESPN. Now, Omari found out that the first year of his contract is guaranteed. Cool. The second year of his contract is partially guaranteed, which I was like, okay, that's interesting. The third year of his contract, non-guaranteed. Now, at first, before we even knew what the contract details were for Duncan Robinson, I saw a lot of people saying, like, that's a lot of money for Duncan Robinson. Like, we were going to pay Malik Beasley 3 years for $42 million, and you're going to be paying Duncan Robinson 3 years for $48 million. I think you had to get another motion shooter. You had to get another 3-point shooter. And I think Duncan Robinson is a good filler. I'm not saying he's going to replace Malik Beasley. It's very hard to replace over 300 3-pointers made in the season. Duncan Robinson is a very good sharpshooter, really good, coming off screens, backdoor cuts. I think his playmaking is very underrated. I think that's an aspect of his game where he's actually better than Malik Beasley. I think he's a better playmaker than Malik Beasley. He doesn't stand still. He's always moving, and I think that's what you guys really like about him. Michigan guy. We got 2 Michigan guys now, Karis LeVert and Duncan Robinson. Both played their college ball at the University of Michigan, so they're coming back home to suit up in the red, white, and blue playing for your Pistons. But I don't really hate the Duncan Robinson move. I told you guys yesterday I wasn't in love with the Karis LeVert move. I thought it was kind of like meh, like okay. But I think kind of sleeping on it and reflecting on it, the Pistons really had to shift their plans, you guys. Like, if Malik wasn't in the trouble that he's in right now with the gambling allegations, and then there's some lawsuit stuff that's happening right now that I'm not going to get into because it's none of my business, and I don't want to speak ill on someone when I don't have all the facts. But I honestly think if Malik wasn't in the trouble that he's in, They gave him the 3 years for 42. They probably re-sign Paul Reed, and maybe they add a player or two. I think that's what Trajan and the Pistons front office plans were. Like, that's what they were going to do. But they had to pivot very quickly. They gave the mid-level to Karis LeVert, which, if he can stay healthy, I think it's a okay move off the bench. Paul Reed, third-string center. His name is probably going to be called, whether it's injuries with Jalen Duren or Isaiah Stewart or foul trouble. Paul Reed showed us that he stays ready. And for what it's worth, he's a very good quality third-string center. The Duncan Robinson move, you got off Simone Fontecchio's money. He was on an expiring $8 million deal. For whatever reason, he really struggled this season with JB Bickerstaff. I don't know if it was a new system. I don't know if it was the broken foot that he had, and he just didn't have a full training camp in a season to get ready for. But he's going to have an opportunity to play in Miami. And you're getting a guy in Duncan Robinson who I think Cade Cunningham's going to love to play with. I think Jalen Duren's really going to love to play with him, especially in the dribble handoff, because if you guys go watch some Duncan Robinson tape and some highlights, you see what I'm talking about, just the way he just moves off ball, curls off screens, backdoor cuts, always makes himself available. And if there isn't a play, he'll just pass it back to like a Jalen Duren or a Cade and try to find a little bit of space for a three-point shot or a mid-range, or just kick it out to the open man. Like, I really like Duncan Robinson. Defensively, I think we know what we're getting. Like, we're not getting a lockdown defender. We're getting like a average defender, and I think I'm being a little bit nice there when I say average. None of these guys are lockdown defenders. They're not. Like, the only like two like lockdown defenders you have are Isaiah Stewart and Asar Thompson. Those are your two best defenders. Hoping that, players like Jaden Ivey can take a leap, hoping that players like Ron Holland can take a leap. I'm curious to see now, with trading Simone Fontecchio, what happens with the backup power forward. Like, who is going to be backing up Tobias Harris? Is it Bobby Klittman? Do they make another move? Is it maybe someone on the Summer League team, one of the undrafted free agents that they signed? I still have a lot of questions with this free agency. We're only 2 days in. Do they get a backup point guard as well? Because I don't really love the idea of going back to what they were doing last year, where it's just Cade and Ivy, and then they're staggered, and then Ivy's kind of the backup point guard out there because you don't really trust Marcus Sasser to be the backup point guard because he's better playing off ball. I'd like to see the Pistons try to acquire a backup point guard if they can. They do have a little bit of money still to spend. I believe they can use their biannual, which is around like $5 million, to sign some players. But I'd be interested to see what they could do with maybe backup point guard, backup power forward. And this roster is shaping up to be taller, at least. Karis LeVert, I believe, is 6'6" or 6'7". Duncan Robinson is 6'6". So you got a little bit taller in that aspect. But that's all I really have. I don't want to waste too much of you guys' time. Only 14-minute podcast tonight. But that's just kind of like my overall reactions. Sucks that the Pistons couldn't work out a deal for a Malik Monk. Gonna miss THJ, but wish him well in Denver. And the Duncan Robinson move, I really don't hate, especially after kind of looking at the contract and how only the first year is guaranteed, the second year is partially guaranteed, and the last year is not guaranteed at all. So you can get up that contract pretty easily. And the contracts that they gave out, they're kind of in the middle. If you think about it, like, you got 3 years, 48, 2 years, 29. Like, those are contracts that you could kind of add together to maybe possibly make a big splash at the deadline, or maybe possibly make a big splash next free agency next summer. But let me know what you guys are thinking of day 2 free agency for the Pistons. I'll talk to you guys down there. Like always, hope you guys are staying safe. Take care. Catch you guys in the next podcast. And as always, go Pistons. Peace.